Welcome to another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy. Today, I am joined and delighted to be joined by a new guest of the show. He can teach you how to invest in the stock market in less than 5 minutes per day, a subject which is very much out of my comfort zone. He is an expert in investments and the owner of the Trade Tribe. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ben Knight.
Thanks for having me, Harry. Pleased
You're
to be here.
welcome, mate. You're welcome. I'm assuming with your experience, you've been on podcasts before.
Yeah, quite a few of them.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And in terms of like the shows that you'd normally go on, the 100% podcast being related to mindset and personal development, maybe a little different to the normal ones you would feature on.
Um, Potentially, but I think everything sort of comes back to this anyway, no matter what you're looking at. I don't really do too many financial specific podcasts because, to be honest, not many people are actually that interested in finances.
Yeah,
You want what the outcome could be, right? The freedom it can give you, that kind of thing, which is the reason we invest. But in terms of like how it changes your life, how it can you can perform better, how you can improve every aspect of your life, that's what really interests me, and I'm sure interests you guys too. So yeah, looking forward to this.
yeah, 100%. So in terms of your journey becoming like creating your own business called the Trade Tribe, where was the interest or where did the interest start for you within investments in itself?
It actually came us a bit of a need, to be honest, because I was always under the impression, like growing up, that I was always going to be a business owner. Like I was never going to get a 9 to 5 job. It just, for me, I'd always seen people around me sort of struggle in terms of like financially and things and working a lot. And I think when you're young, you take that on board as, all right, that's what I don't want to do then. I don't want to live a life like that. So for me, I was like, right, I want to be a business owner. Everyone I know who's got money is a business owner. That was kind of my thinking. Obviously, I was young, didn't know the ins and outs yet. But come out of university and thought, I actually have no idea what business I want to do, right? I've just done a 4 year degree in international business. So you'd think I'd learn, but apparently not. So I was like, right, well, I need to start making money. And I tried a few different businesses, I have to say, some very, very unsuccessful ones. Let's put it like that. And I was like, right, how about trading? Let me learn to trade so I can make some money on the side while I figure out what business I want to start. So it was kind of, as I said, a bit of a necessity there just to keep the money coming in. And yeah, that's how I got into trading in the first place.
Amazing. There's two questions I have straight away there. The first one is more of a kind of light-hearted. What were the businesses that you tried and failed? I'm just intrigued to know.
I started an Amazon FBA business, if you know what that is, like yeah,
Oh yeah,
shipping,
yeah.
more of like a wholesaling kind of business. Didn't go well at all. But to be honest, it was just because I wasn't passionate about it. I was doing it just for the sake of doing it rather than like actually wanting to do it. And then the other one, the other main one was I tried to learn to code mobile phone apps, which I'm not techie at all in the slightest. So I don't know what I was thinking, but as I said, I was just so desperate to not have to go into like a 9 to 5 career and like risk getting comfortable.
When, because that's interesting, right? Because we all are brought up with, like, I've been fortunate to see both of my parents hold down 9 to 5 jobs kind of thing. And that's always given me an emphasis on like, you have to work hard to get what you want out of life. And they've kind of settled, but we're all brought up in a sense that this is what we should do. What was the difference for you? Was it literally seeing the people above, like your elders kind of struggling with the general 9 to 5 that made you want to go outside of that?
I think if I had to put my finger on it, I would say it was more that side of things that everybody I knew who was stressed, who was worrying about things, who didn't seem happy, it was related to finances. And in my mind, I sort of linked that to, well, they're working a lot and they don't have money. There's a disconnect here. I don't get it because people are working hard. I know they're trying hard, but they're not living the life they want. So when I looked and I thought, right, well, there's these people I look up to, like much bigger people that I didn't personally know. And I was like, hang on a minute, well, they're all business owners. They're doing something different. They're not working for someone else. So I think in my mind, I just made that connection that, oh, that must be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's interesting as well that you said with the two smaller businesses that didn't quite work for you, you said straight away, it's obvious why it didn't work because I wasn't actually enjoying what I was doing. That was a lesson that you learned quite early then.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Again, it probably goes back to hearing people like complaining about their work, their jobs, things like that. Now, by the way, I just have to put a caveat in here. No disrespect to 9 to 5 jobs at all.
No.
I think ideal and necessary for a lot of people if that's what they want to do. I think that's the key bit there. Like if someone's comfortable in doing that and they actually really like that security, happy days. Like by all means, go for that. I just knew that that wasn't what I needed to stay motivated.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you use the word security there. And the first time when I invested fully into having my own personal, let's just call him personal development coach within Paul Mort,
Mhm.
when he talks about 9 to 5 jobs and security, he almost says that it doesn't exist. But there is that I get it from either side of the fence, right? Because on his argument is that this employer could get rid of you at any point. And
Mhm.
if anybody knows anything about employment law, that's true within the first 2 years of your contract, right? They can use any excuse and you may not be good enough, and boom, that security's gone. But of course, there are more 9 to 5 jobs out there, and it takes less effort potentially to start your own business and get it working, and the effort that it would take to get to a standard that you've got yourself in, that Paul Mort's got himself in, to obviously earn the money that makes life comfortable and have that financial freedom.
Um, I'd put maybe a slightly different spin on that in that what Paul said there, I totally agree with. And when I said the security that comes with it, it's more of a feeling of security,
Yes,
almost a bit of a
exactly.
false sense of security. And by the way, I don't think running a business is any safer, but I think people feel secure in a job because, like you actually said it earlier, like that's what they think they're meant to do or what they should do, what they were told. So when people sort of stay within that lane, they feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. This is what my parents did or my family did, so I must be doing all right. I don't want to do something scary out there. Now, I would agree with Paul that having a job is actually very unsecure because you're one decision away from being like having no income, right? And that's not your decision either. Somebody above you, like a manager or whoever. So when your fate's in someone else's hands like that, that's actually a very dangerous position to be in. Whereas with a business, I think, and you said it might be easier to start a business and right. I would disagree with that in the sense of I think you don't have any sense of security with the business. So it's all on you, right? But equally, maybe that makes it more secure because it's just in your hands. If you're going to fail or succeed, it is down to you, which I quite like that sort of my fate in my own hands kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it comes down to there are two types of people, right? Ones that are quite happy taking control and taking that responsibility, and again, not meaning any form of disrespect, but having that reliance that you know that you're going to turn up on the flip side every day, and there's going to be work there for you for an employer, and either way, you can make a successful life out of it.
100%. Completely agree with that. Yeah.
With the other bit that I said that I picked up on when you were talking about going into investing yourself, is that teaching yourself how to invest. I quite like that language because it almost gives me a sense of security that you know what you're doing. But there is a narrative around stocks and shares and investing that there is some risk to it, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with anything, the approach you take is the decider, right? Like how you approach anything, you could do a low risk version or a high risk version pretty much of anything I can think of. So yeah, you're definitely right, but it just depends what strategy you're following, and that's the key. People who like sign up for a free account online, like a free broker, and then just start throwing money in it. They place like a trade because their friends told them a stock or they heard one online, and then they win or lose. They think, oh, that's trading, but of course it's not. It's not at all. But yeah, that would be a very high risk way to do it for sure.
So go on then. I'm very intrigued. When you say you did you teach yourself? Was there kind of like scrapbooks involved? Was it watching videos online? How did the journey from you starting out as a trader to
Mhm.
now teaching people essentially how to trade?
So I did start off on my own, I have to say, and that was wildly unsuccessful. Because, well, like I just said, like you sign up for things, you watch a couple of YouTube videos, and you think, oh, this is easy. Everyone's doing it, right? Or you see the 18-year-olds online with the Lamborghinis, and you think, oh, anyone can do this. Obviously, that's not the reality. But yeah, I started placing trades. Some win, some lose, and the most dangerous ones are the winners because then you think, oh, I must be good at this. So I put more money in terrible, right? So yeah, I was losing a lot of money. So I got to the sort of decision, and this created a bit of a mantra I live by now. And it's either way you pay. So what it means is like in life, there's a cost to every action and inaction. You just always have to choose which price you'd prefer to pay. So I could either keep making mistakes, which was very costly, or I could pay the price of like investing in my education. So when I put it like that, and I was like, right, well, I'd much rather get an education, learn to do this properly and succeed than keep making mistakes. So, either way you pay. So I
There
did learn from others.
are there. Sorry to butt in. Then are there lessons that you remember from your early education within trades that fully stick in your brain now?
Are there still points that I use now?
Yeah.
Uh, Potentially, there might be some like foundational stuff, but what I learned, and this will probably be a lot of people's experience if they've ever tried to dip their toe into trading, when you learn from a lot of people online, they teach the advanced stuff, okay, like the glamorous stuff, I like to call it. So you might have like Forex or cryptos or whatever it may be. And the reason they teach it is because it's sexy, right? It's fast paced. They see people winning loads, got a bit of an adrenaline rush. Now, the problem with that, and what people don't realize is that's a really, really advanced form of trading. It's kind of like kicking a football for the first time and then expecting to play in the Premier League the next weekend. Like that's the level of like the jump it is. But people don't see that because they just think, oh, well, that person can do it. I must be able to do it. To get good at that sort of trading can take years. So what I learned then was like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this. This is almost too complex, kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And the analogy that I'm using to flip that to something that maybe I would understand, it would be like somebody who's not stepped foot in the gym for 5 years trying to take on a bodybuilder's lifestyle, when
Ex-
actually that's so far away from where they're at. They need to just concentrate on turning up to the gym 3 times and maybe putting a little bit more protein into their diet, right? Rather than the supplementation, the extra steps, the 6 days a week training program, etc.
Exactly that, man. Exactly. If you, to use that sort of analogy, it's kind of that the fundamentals are what actually gets results, particularly at the beginning, right? Like if you work out, you push yourself, you're taking each step to like a good level of intensity, you're gonna grow, gonna make progress at the gym, right? But yeah, like you said, if you're trying to take, oh, I need to take my BCAAs between sets, I need to be like it's too minuscule, right? It doesn't really make the difference at this stage.
The there was a guest I had on recently that used, I don't know what who made the quote, but it was do I'm pretty sure the quote was, when I asked the best bit of advice they've ever been given, it wasn't that they'd been given it, they just heard it, and it was do the basics well, and then the better results will follow. And that sounds like something that we're kind of on the same tracks alongside with trading as well here.
100%. I think that's probably true in any discipline. So the reason I mentioned about the simplicity side of things is more important is because what I teach now, this whole how to invest in less than 5 minutes a day, you know as well as I do, to do anything in 5 minutes a day, you've got to keep it simple. But you can't be doing the super advanced stuff that's going to take years of learning. No, I keep it simple because it's actually the simple stuff that does get the results. Because you only need to be good to make money with investing. You don't need to be incredible or the best in the world. And I think for most people, being good and making a consistent, like steady growth is much more achievable and attainable than trying to become like a full-time day trader and things like that.
Amazing. So I'm interested to know as well now then. So if you have a new client approach you online or whatever, and they've got absolutely zero experience with trading, with maybe they've been like, oh, I've seen all of this stuff online. It looks like I can make some money quickly, let's just say. What are the kind of first, I guess, reality checks that you're going to give this client?
Yeah, great question. So to be fair, probably 95% of my clients have never done a thing with trading before. So because I very keep like I focus on the simplicity, I think that is a more approachable thing for a lot of beginners, which is great, right? So I guess the first reality check is, and it comes from my thing about being 5 minutes a day, because it being 5 minutes a day is the biggest strength and its biggest weakness. And I say that because 5 minutes a day, everyone's like, oh, I've got 5 minutes a day. I can learn that. Great, which is true. The problem is, and you touched on it earlier, you've got to work hard to get to get result and things like that. People think, well, all right, well, I've learned this now. If I put in 10 minutes there, I'm going to get double the results. If I do 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'm going to get more. it doesn't work like that. It's a very step-by-step process. So taking it back to your gym analogy, if you go and do a good workout, great. If you stay in there 3 times as long, you're not going to get 3 times the results. That's not how it works, right? You do what you need to do. So because I keep things simple and very step by step, people find it hard to stomach that it is literally just 5 minutes a day and then you're done. So that's probably quite a big reality check, that investing doesn't work like manual labor.
Yeah, it totally makes sense for sure. And in terms of the growth of investing financially,
Mhm.
of course, like you say, you have those big examples. I don't think examples is the word, but you see these 18-year-olds, whoever it is, over in Dubai. They like have these posts that say, I've made X amount of money in this amount of time, and here's my brand new yellow Lamborghini that's like, you know what I mean, from 2058. Like, it's that
Yeah.
new that I've had to pay extra money for it, right? But the reality is, I assume as well, is that the growth for an average low risk investor is, it's all about the small gains creating to big gains. You're not looking at within 6 months having six figures extra in your bank account and you're like, oh, I've won at life.
Absolutely, there. Great analogy too. Um, for me, I always tell people, probably another reality check, like you just asked. If I say to people, if you're looking to quit your job by next Monday, like, I can't help you. This isn't for you, because get rich quick schemes do not exist, right? Well, I think we all know that by now, but people still fall for them. So what we do, we focus on the steady growth, like you said, because the other alternative is doing like the crazy wins, the crazy losses. Now that's stressful, not sustainable, and you're going to lose big in the long run, right? It's like gambling. So I'm much more of a steady gains like approach. It just works so much better because everybody can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. And to touch on those 18-year-olds with the new Lambos in Dubai, there's two sides to look at that. One, it's complete bullshit, right? Of course, they haven't done that at 18, but you have to be some of the best traders in the world to make consistent gains like that. So there's either that and they're just completely lying, rented cars, that kind of thing. Or if they have made, let's say, 100 grand this month in trading, it's very easy to make 100 grand if you've got 10 million in your account, right?
Yeah.
If you've got such an account balance, making 1%, that looks great. So maybe it's daddy's money, maybe it's something else, who knows? But there's always, I never put any real trust into a lot of those things because they're just not real.
That leads to a lovely question, actually. When we're talking investments for clients, obviously you don't have to go into details, but I'm just intrigued in terms of what kind of investment are you looking at for it. Let's just say I've like my friends are listening to this, they've got a little bit of extra money in the bank that they're like, oh, this could be an interesting conversation to go and have a chat with Ben after they've listened to this podcast. How much money are we looking at talking is a good starting place for investing in stocks and shares to begin with?
So while there isn't an actual minimum, I always tell people I've got two rules. It's got to be enough to keep you interested. So if you use an amount of money that you could not care less about, like 100 quid, and you're like, I don't care what happens, you're not going to be committed to growing them. But equally, at the other end of the scale, not so much that it keeps you up at night, right? So if it causes you any stress, that's way too much as well. So that middle number will be different for everyone. Personally, to give you some actual figures, I would say to people, if you can start with at least £500, that gives you a lot of flexibility in what shares you can buy, that kind of thing. And then once you're comfortable with a strategy, you're already getting results, you can add to it later. You haven't got to go like gung ho on day one, which I think a lot of people think, oh, I need to have loads saved up to do it. Not at all. I'd say start small and just add on to it as you go.
And one thing that's just popped into my head as well is that shit like stocks and shares, the stock market, investing in it, etc., has been around for a long, long period of time, right? It's a tried and, I say, proven method for those that are successful and good at it. That actually it is a kind of a good way to make money if you are patient, you do the basics right, you have and you put, I guess, your attention in the right areas and potentially as well get the right training off of somebody like yourself. But the 21st century, because of social media, TV, The Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
that the film is put it right into people's, like, it's almost something that people are not fixated on, but it's in people's awareness more. Is that
Mhm.
a, would you say that's a scary thing, or would you say that's a positive thing?
I think any time that investing is the forefront of people's minds is a great thing. Because I know we spoke earlier about security and things like that. What actually gives you real security is not having all your eggs in one basket. I think in most things in life, that's true. Answers. So with investing, I think that's a great thing. Now, the reason that maybe you'd agree trading, investing might have quite a negative reputation sometimes is because of all these scams online, false promises, rented cars, that kind of thing. So it's great that more people are thinking about investing, but it's scary how many bad paths they could go down,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah, 100%. The one that sticks out in my head that I didn't lose on, but it sticks out in my head as a scary one was the foot oh my God, the football. Do you remember the football index? Basically, it was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, it was advertised on Five Live, Talk Sport, is this investment thing where you bought shares in players, and then if they did well, if they scored, if they were mentioned in newspapers, if they were like mentioned in transfers, blah blah blah, obviously their stocks would go up, and then obviously if they weren't doing so well, it would go down. But it turned out the football index, it was called, definitely. If you do, like, I'm surprised you've not heard of it actually. Just
I kind of remember the concept
yeah,
of mentioned, but I never took part in it.
but it turned into like a, what's the word? I've literally got a mind blank on what the terminology is. Where there's actually no money in the pot there. It's all, uh, yeah. It's an investment scheme that's a complete dud. And then they went bust, and that was that. And obviously for football fans, let's just say, which is essentially the market that they were aiming at, it was a way where people thought that this was a good way that I could invest some money, but actually it turned out after time that this was an absolute flaw and there was no point investing any money in it. And I guess it's really important to do your research into whatever it is that you're putting your money into.
Absolutely. And yeah, well, sorry to hear that didn't work out, but I completely see why people would go for that because it sort of mixes you to interest, right? Like I want to make more money and I love football. Great. That's probably what attracts people. But yeah, you touched on it a minute ago as well, that the stock market has been around for hundreds of years, right? So that for me, it doesn't stick around for that long if it's a dud
Yeah.
or if that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
that's a great point.
the things that pop up overnight, I'm always very skeptical. So I know during 2020, 2021, the crypto market was ridiculous with things popping up every 2 days with this is going to be the next overnight success, this one. And well, where are they now? Most of them, right? So I do definitely favor things that have been around longer, proven record. And of course, like you can, as I said earlier, you can do a risky approach to anything. But at least if I know something's been around for 100 and whatever years, there probably is money to be made there, and I can probably rely on it to not disappear.
Yeah, it's another interesting conversation. Of course, while I've got you on the podcast, I'd like to just get your views on and your thoughts. Is obviously, like you say, 2020, crypto, Bitcoin was high on people's agenda. Where do you stand on that? And where, like, have you been involved in it? And what would be your advice on anybody looking to go into that side of things at the moment?
I find it a really interesting topic in the sense of it goes against all of my, let's say, natural instincts of like the security, you want to be like growing steadily. It's completely against all of that. However, what I do see with Bitcoin is the opportunity that it actually might stick around, whereas I don't see that with literally any other of the cryptos that I'm familiar with. So if cryptos is the way to go for anybody, I would strongly suggest if you're doing it for the long term as well, sticking to Bitcoin personally. Now, I have some money in Bitcoin, but it's certainly not one of my bigger investment pots, let's say. So if that means maybe dedicating like 5% of your net worth to an investment like that, which could like skyrocket overnight, great, because that's the benefit of volatile things or risky things. You only need a small amount in to still make a lot of money, which is quite nice. Don't
Yeah.
put all your, like, it is a very risky thing still. But
Amazing.
yeah, my
And
take.
yeah, no, that's fine. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because it was kind of hot on, as you mentioned a minute ago, it was hot on people's agendas. Let's just say it was hot. Everybody was talking about it. Let's just say when it came to, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen how much it's worth? You could have done this. And obviously hindsight with investing and seeing things grow is massive, right? But on the same breath, with any investing, when you lose,
Yeah.
sometimes people can get put off and almost take the fact that they've lost as something that that's just what's happened and they're never going to get good at it. But is it a case of, even with the most amount of experience you could ever have in investing, you're always going to get those bits of investment that are going to lose?
Yeah, and I think that doesn't even just, it's not just for investing, it's probably most things in life, right? You could be
Yeah, great point.
the biggest bodybuilder in the world, like the best one who's been training for 15, 20 years, but you could still have a rubbish set kind of thing. And it doesn't mean you're suddenly rubbish at going to the gym, right? So I think with investing, particularly depending on what type of investing you do, right? So if you're a day trader, like probably the one you see online, what comes to mind of trading, that is a win-lose game, and you just try and win more than you lose. Like even the best in the world loses with that. So fine. If you do lower risk investments, let's say like I do, or even if you do something like property, you don't necessarily have the losses. Like we focus on not losing, but you might be in it for a little bit more time. So you can either have, the quick wins and win losses, or you can be in it for a bit longer, but have the steady gains.
Yeah, nice.
So that's probably the difference there.
And again, there's like gym analogies that you can go back to, right? Because you can take all the supplements in the world, go on, use the phrase, go on gear and get like thin really quickly, but that's not going to sustain you in the long run. You can go to Slimming World, and you can like follow a crap diet and lose weight really quickly. But after 6 months of not being involved, you've gone back to square one. Essentially, that's the same with looking for a quick win in investing. You're better off doing the like we go back to it, right? Going back to the basics, train 3 times a week, get your steps in, have a averagely healthy diet, focus on your protein, which I don't know what the comparison would be in investing. I'll leave that to you to explain what maybe like the three basics that you could
Mm,
do with investing are. But you're, after 2 years of doing that, you're going to be in a net gain
mm.
rather than going up and down with like really wacky graph spectrums.
Yeah, 100%. It's exactly the same. So in investing, it'd be the same as the gym in that the differentiator is going to be the program that you follow, or like the
Yeah.
strategy you follow. Like we call it strategy in investing, but you'd probably call it like a workout plan or something. But what you're actually doing each day and like following is going to be the differentiator. It's not you. You're not going to be a genius at investing overnight. You're not going to be a genius in the gym overnight, the best track. You're just not. It's how you train that's going to make the difference. Now, the other key point here, and I stress this to everybody, whatever approach you take, whatever strategy you use, it's got to be one that does the thinking for you. So, same as the gym. If you get into the gym each day and you're like, what do I feel like training today? Or what exercise do I feel like might be good? That's not a good recipe for success, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with investing. You need to have a step by step that I'm going to do this, then this, then this. Because what that does is it removes emotions. And emotions are the number one reason people fail with investing. Because, like you said, they lose a bit and they're like, oh, panicking, or they see something over there is happening, they get a bit of FOMO. Like emotions and logic don't mix. So follow a strategy that just tells you what to do at each stage, and you don't have to do any of the thinking. That's the biggest secret to success, if there was one.
Here's one for you then. So in my head there, the emotion side of things is why people can become very addicted to gambling. So where are the, from obviously somebody that's got a wealth of experience in the investing game, where are the differences between investing per se and then maybe chucking a 10 quid bet on in Sky Bet?
Good question. And everybody always asks at the beginning, like, oh, isn't investing like gambling, just putting your money in something and hoping it goes up? It's not, but that's what most people actually do when they think they're investing. They gamble because they're not following a system and they're just basing it on how they feel. So the big differentiators there is like with gambling, it's going to be stressful, it's going to be intense, you're going to be very connected to the outcome. Investing, you need to be disconnected from the outcome in the sense of, look, I've done the steps. done everything correctly, what will happen will happen. If you can have that approach, probably to most aspects of life, you know you've done the right thing and the result is out your hands, then you're just going to be more successful long term. And also, you don't blame yourself if it doesn't go well.
Yeah. It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because the mindset behind it is, I don't know, I've luckily never been addicted to gambling, and a little bit of a side conversation here, but the mindset behind, say, losing 100 quid and then putting 100 quid in to lose 100 quid again to then try and chase your losses with investing, that's a safer way to, if you've got an investment in, let's just say, 5 different businesses, whatever they are, that's a safer way of trying to regain your losses than, let's just say, putting 100 quid on black in the roulette, on a roulette wheel.
Yeah. Um, I think probably, I don't want to sound like a broken record either, but the reason I keep mentioning this because it's so important. The strategy you follow, it has to be a proven strategy, right?
Yes.
In the sense of people who have followed this to the T have got the results consistently. So by definition, if you follow those same steps, you will get results too. So what that does, it removes a lot of the fear that, all right, I've lost that one, or I've lost this second one, or maybe even lost that third one. But I know that following this,
Yeah.
I will do okay. Whereas gambling, as anyone knows, if you go on the roulette table and just start throwing chips down, you might never win. Like, but yeah, you get yourself in a real hole.
Yeah.
So certainly the strategy you're following will take that away from you, I'd say.
It does make me feel like I'm thinking on the spot here. So I don't mind having a bet on like an accumulator or whatever, right? For on the footballs. I'm interested in football. And I'm just thinking, I was like, how many times do I actually win that like 100 quid? Let's just say that it says that I'm gonna win at the end of the bet. And I'm like, how many of those bets would I need to not do to then just put 500 quid in investment? It's just thinking out loud here on the podcast, guys. Don't worry about it. Okay. I went through your Instagram before the show today, and I just picked out a few of like my favorite posts that you did, and I'd like you to go in on them if that's okay. So you put in one of your posts around wisdom can equal wealth. Where does that come in, or how does that explain? Or sorry, let's try that question again. Wisdom and wealth,
Mhm.
they almost equal the same thing. That's basically what your post said. Can you explain that more in a way for us to understand what you mean with regards to that?
Yeah, no problem at all. I can't remember the exact post you're referring to. However, what I would assume I meant from that was probably about wealthy families. I think this is actually probably where this stemmed from.
Yeah, yeah.
People think, oh, that person's rich because their parents passed them down loads of money. Generational wealth continues, not because of the money that's passed down, it's actually the knowledge. Because let's say today, your a distant family member just said to you, "Oh, Harry, here's £100 million. Um, good luck, enjoy it."
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it, absolutely, but how long is that going to stay £100 million, or how long is it going to either increase as well? It's not right. You're going to spend it, lose it, maybe do some risky things with it because you've not. Well, I would do the same, right? We don't know how to handle £100 million. Whereas if somebody had taught you how to have £100 million, and then you did acquire that, well, that 100 million is probably going to stick around. Kind of like a lottery winner. I call it lottery winner syndrome. That I think I don't know what the stat is. Something ridiculous, like 99 point something percent of lottery winners lose it all in the first 5 years. It's because they don't know how to handle that kind of money. Just having money doesn't mean you know how to manage it. So exactly the same thing with this one, I would say.
It's bizarre in it as well. And I don't mean to cause any offense to anybody who may be listening, but they always say that rich people are the ones that don't like you tend to notice not spend the money. But there's a reason for that, right? Because they're well, not there's a reason for that. Is that what you're saying there kind of makes true it comes true because they know where to spend their money and they know where not to.
Yeah, success leaves clues, right? If
Yeah.
everyone who's got money does a certain thing, there's probably a reason they do that. But yeah, hopefully that answers that for
Yeah,
you.
no, it definitely does. Yeah, and then the next there's only two more, and I won't butcher this one, I promise you. But you mentioned in one of your posts about online courses, and of course, if you were to Google or if you was to put in your Instagram search page around online course for crypto or online course for investing your money, there would be hundreds and thousands of individuals, just like I get in my DMs around people who say that I'm going to upgrade my clients by 1,000 in a year or whatever. Like, and then they've got 500 followers. The same for, I'm sure the same meets the same in investing as well. How do you spot the real deal from the fakes in the crowd?
Yeah, great question. So a few things I'd look out for in any investing opportunity. So if there's guaranteed returns, red flag, or particularly if that's guaranteed returns without a contract. So I know you can invest in property deals and you will get 10% back over the thing. That's maybe okay, but that's with a contract. So guaranteed returns, payouts on certain days of the month. That's just not true. If they're like, oh, on the first of the month you're going to get double your money. Well, that's not how investing works. Like any market is fairly unpredictable in that, it goes up and down. You can't say on this day it's going to be exactly there. No one does that. Not even the best investor in the world knows that. So anything like that is always a worry. And for me, one thing I look out for in anything like that, actually being able to speak to a human being is quite a big deal. If you're talking to, if they just want to DM with you and they don't want to get on Zoom or they don't want to meet, or you can't actually speak to a real person or the person you're going to be learning from, for me, that's a massive red flag. Because as somebody who runs a investment training company, I want to speak to the people I'm going to work with because I need to know that they're actually right for this.
Yeah.
Because, well, in the trade tribe, we actually have 100% success rate with our clients. Now, what that means is nobody's lost money following that strategy, right? So if they stuck to a strategy, they've made money. I'm very keen to maintain that success rate, right? So if people and just let anybody sign up, that would be ridiculous. So it worries me that certain things wouldn't want to have that conversation first. So yeah, that would be my top 3 tips, definitely.
I love that. That's an amazing stat to have within the trade tribe. So yeah, if anybody's listening, definitely head on over. I'll make sure the link to your website is in the description of this podcast. But B, like it totally makes sense, right? And I think obviously there are some red flags that stand out from like a mile off, but some of them that you've mentioned there, I think really are things that I would never even have thought of, like the guaranteed daily or the guaranteed pays out on the days of a month. I mean, for somebody who's got an untrained ear or an untrained eye, that could be a real easy kind of thing to hook you in, right?
Oops, that's why they do it, because it
Yeah.
sounds amazing. But the too good to be true thing, it does
Yeah.
ring true quite a lot of the time, unfortunately. One thing I will touch on though, because I would hate to sort of confuse people. When I say talk about our 100% success rate, the reason we've got that is, to be honest, is because what we do is simple and it's low risk. If we were like day trading and stuff, that would be impossible to maintain that, because it'd be like gambling. Like, you couldn't do that over a number of years. So when you see people like, oh, we're going to double your money overnight, it's guaranteed and everything like that, 100%, that's impossible to do if you're doing high risk stuff. So yeah, definitely watch out for that too, I would say.
Yeah, perfect. Going on to away from investments a little bit and more into mindset. You have done stage talks before in front of do you know what the biggest crowd you've done it in front of is?
500?
500, mate. That's still a lot of people. When it comes to that, is being confident and speaking in front of crowds something that's you've always been good at?
I wouldn't say I've necessarily always been good at it, because I do think you've got to have a bit of experience of anything to actually get good. However, that biggest talk I've done, the 500, that was my first ever speaking gig.
Oh wow.
So theoretically, I couldn't have been that good, but it did go well, which is great. But what I was probably the biggest factor for me was I was really comfortable in what I was talking about. And I think this is a huge thing. So people that worry about public speaking and stuff, if you really got up and just spoke about the things you truly love and like the things you're actually passionate about, and you feel you could help people with it, and you're coming from that sort of energy, I think anybody can be good at it. But you get a bit in your own head.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if somebody was to say to me to speak about something that I had to research a week before and make a presentation on it and learn as much as possible, of course, before that event, I'd be like, oh my God, how am I going to remember all of this kind of thing? But if somebody got me to speak about like weight loss or training or Chelsea Football Club, for example, then I'd be able to probably stand there for hours. And I'm assuming because you started so early with your investment experience that when you got on stage to talk about investment, the experience and the passion then came out.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Of course, it also depends who you're talking to as well. Like if you had a hostile crowd with like
Yeah,
hecklers, that
yeah.
might be a different story. But it was a nice room, luckily.
How did you deal with the nerves?
This is going to sound ridiculous. I didn't actually have any nerves.
Wow,
I was
nice.
waiting for the nerves. So in my head, I was like, well, I'm going to get nervous. Like everybody gets nervous public speaking. But it was like 2 minutes before the talk. I was like, they haven't hit me yet. Oh my God, they're going to hit me on the stage. And then I was like, I got onto the stage. I was like, oh, they haven't hit me yet. They're going to hit me in the middle. And then I was thinking, oh, it's going to hit me at the end. And it never came. And I thought, I've just psyched myself out, like stressed myself about absolutely nothing here. So I think a lot of nerves, things like that, is 100% like internal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think again it just depends what you're talking about and the crowd. I'm assuming the crowd were there it was some kind of finance event.
It was a business event. It was
Yeah,
business
yeah.
owners. Yeah, but yeah, good energy. Everyone was nice, so that
Yeah,
that did
that's
help.
and that's that leads me on to another question with yourself, Ben, is that you like we've obviously been speaking preparing for this podcast for a couple of weeks now, and the moment I spoke to you, I could sense that you had a high like frequency of energy. Is that something that's really important to you to deliver to your not just your clients, but for your overall life in general?
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you highlighted that. It's not something I'm particularly conscious of, but I'm glad. I'm glad that comes across as well because I'd say I'm quite a positive person, but that's a bit wishy-washy. But in the sense of like, I'm quite a optimistic person. In the
Nice.
sense of, I think everybody can be doing more in their life, and by more I mean having more, achieving more, being more content, that kind of thing. So if I can help in some way, let's say through investing, like I think that's an amazing, like very privileged position to be in. So I think that does come across. But equally, when I'm delivering trainings on investing, let's be real, investing isn't the sexiest subject in the world. So if you've got like a no disrespect to an old man in a suit, just reading off of like a bit of paper,
Yeah.
just mumbling along, no one's going to be that interested, right? So I feel it's kind of up to me to make it interesting for people as well. So yeah, I try to keep the energy nice and high too.
Amazing. So when it comes to maintaining that energy, do you
Yeah.
have a routine in your day and your week that you'll make sure you follow to keep that to a good standard?
I this is interesting. I don't have a morning routine, which I know is quite a big trendy thing at the moment. I
Yeah. Do you know what? Like the the more I think morning routines, the start of 2023 were the trendy thing to talk about in the mindset, fitness, personal development game, right? And now it's becoming even more sexier to say, oh, you don't need a fucking morning routine. You just got to do it anyway, like, which is fine.
yeah, yeah.
But essentially, for me, a morning routine is about right, what really works for you in the morning. And
Yes.
just to go on a little tangent here. So for me, it's journal, cup of tea, glass of water, supplements. If I've got time to get a meditation in personally, or just to sit down in absolute silence for 15 to 20 minutes, then that's what I'll do. And I'll envision what I'm going to do, which is written down in my journal in the day and who I need to impact positively, etc. Right? That's my morning routine. Takes 30 minutes probably.
Mhm.
Now when like I mean I think when people mention morning routines, it's like we need to have a cold shower, we need to do our meditation, we need to journal, we need to have an incredibly nutritious breakfast and make sure our avocados cook perfectly, blah blah blah. When actually, like you said, you don't need one, you've still got high energy. So there's no there's no magic sauce to be found within a morning routine.
No, and you're absolutely right. And you said something right at the start. It's what works for you. So for me, when I try things out, I like to go extreme. So when I first got into, I just find that's the best way to learn, right?
Yeah,
You see what.
nice.
So when I got into morning routines in 2020, you might have heard of Miracle Morning, but it was basically a little community of us that got on Zoom every morning at it was 5 or 6, I can't remember, AM, and did like it was very structured. It was like do some what was it? We had move around, do your meditation, do your journaling, write your goals, or say your affirmations. It was like a 30-minute thing, but it was like intense. By the end of it, I was knackered and I absolutely wiped out, and I needed a nap. So I was like, "Well, this isn't ideal." I stuck to that for a year, to be fair, but it just didn't work for me. Now, the reason I got into that, and the reason I'm saying this, it might be useful for people, is because it was one of my mentors at the time that said they do that. So I thought, well, they're successful. I want to be like them. So that must be the key to success. And to be honest, they might have even said that that was the key to their success. I think there's a lot of things like that online at the moment, particularly as like social media gets bigger, that people in positions of great success, like they truly are successful, they attribute their success to certain things. But to be honest, you actually never know what was the real thing that made you successful. You actually can't pinpoint that. Like you did the work and you got the outcome. You can't say it was because I thought positively for 5 minutes a day. You couldn't possibly say that, right?
No.
You think that would be the case, but you can't do it. And also the other dangerous thing that people fall into is when they see their idol or their big mentor online that they really aspire to be, and they say, "Oh, I do this in the mornings," doesn't mean they did that when they were coming up where you are now, right? They probably 20 years ago when they was first starting out in their business career, they weren't taking cold showers, doing a meditation that wasn't trendy then, so they probably didn't even think of that. They might be doing it now, but that's not what got them to where they are. So never feel like you have to do something somebody else did to get the same sort of outcome, because it's got to be an individual thing for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And also the hustle. I hate using that word, but the hustle that you probably need as a start as an entrepreneur is very different to what you need as an entrepreneur when you've got 10 people working for you. Your emails are done automated, your all your social media is done automated. Like for I'll just like without using myself as an example, like I have to do all my DMing, right? All of
Yeah.
my social media posts are done by me. I'm lucky that I've got a podcast editor now, so like my videos are done for me. But if you've got all of those things and you're expected to do A, B, C, and D in the morning and then A, B, C, and D in the evening as well, you're potentially losing 2 hours of working time, right?
100%. Like, so, well, yeah, exactly. And I came to that conclusion myself because I'd done all of that, and this was 3 years ago, as I said. So I'd done that morning routine, was knackered for the day, couldn't get anything done. So I was like, right, let me just cut this completely again, one extreme or the other. So I was like, let me just wake up and work. How does that work for me? And to be fair, that actually works for me a lot better. I find like in the morning I'm much more productive, and I'd rather just get into it. I love going to the gym. So a few days a week, I'll put a gym session in the first thing in the morning instead. And it just breaks it up for me. So that's why I say I haven't got like a consistent routine, because some days I'll get up and work, some days I'll go to the gym. And for me, that just keeps me firing.
I think as well, I don't know if it's similar for you, but because we both obviously have a lot going on and we
Mm.
want a lot to be going on in our lives, whether it be gym, whether it be business, whether it be speaking, podcasts, whatever. We've got quite active brains. And I think if you put too much of a routine into somebody that's like, well, maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but if I was to say you've got to do this at this time, this at this time, this at this time every day, I'd just get bored. I love having like a bit of a sporadic routine to it all. Like, I'll never do the journal first every day. It'll be like have the cup of tea, sit down for 20 minutes first. You know what I mean? Just keeping things fresh, I think, is the spice of life as such.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes down to your personality type. Like for me, I'm agreeing with you. Like I can't, if it said this time every day you have to do this, this time I wouldn't stick to it. Like it just wouldn't work for me. But I know some people need that, otherwise they'll go off the rails. So
Yeah.
definitely does have to fit the individual again. So yeah, I do agree with you.
Go on then. What is the num or your top three things that you do fit? I think I would say that you're going to put gym in this category, but we'll leave you to answer the top three things that do leave you with this high energy frequency that you have.
Mm, okay. I'll say gym, even though because you've highlighted it, but because I love gym for the physical and the mental side.
Plus,
I think the mental aspect of gym is so underrated. And I think a lot of problems that people experience day to day in their lives, and stress and even illnesses that it leads to, I think could be avoided if more people did more exercise in some way. It doesn't necessarily need to be the gym, but just kept moving. I think it has a huge mental impact. So that would be a good one for anybody. I who I surround myself with is a huge one. Who I listen to, what I consume, all of that. I think what goes into your head each day has a massive impact on what comes out of it as well. So yeah, positive people, not like wishy-washy positive, like just shouting
No, I
affirmations and
completely get it.
but yeah, people who are, if you're just listening to like doom, gloom, listening to the news every day, seeing everything that bad is in the world, it's going to be very, very hard to keep high energy with that, right? So I think the opposite of that's also true. If you're always hearing great things, you're doing good things that you enjoy, experiencing things, it's going to be a much more better place to live in your mind, I would say. So that definitely helps. Third thing, God, you really put me on the spot there.
Yeah, nice. Getting you thinking on your feet, mate.
Yeah, I like it. The third thing I would attribute it to is certainly my internal monologue. So how you talk to yourself, I think, dictates your life. Now I know I've just said in that last point what you hear has a big impact. It does, but all that does is have a knock-on effect of how you talk to yourself. And I think the questions you ask yourself, the way you treat yourself internally, really dictates how your life goes and how happy you really or how content you really are. So yeah, how you speak to yourself, I think, is probably the biggest one out of all of those.
Interesting that you mentioned that. Has that stemmed from a period of your life maybe where you didn't used to speak to yourself too pleasantly?
I wish for like the bumper sticker I could say that's absolutely what happened, but
Yeah.
no, in the sense of I've always been very, I don't know what the word would be, very well aware that about how I'm talking to myself.
Yeah,
Particularly,
self-aware. Self-aware.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a better word. When I was very, very young, like as a little kid, this is going to sound terrible. I can't believe I'm saying this in public. I used to genuinely think the world revolved around me, like genuinely. Like I thought I was the center of the universe, and it was kind of like a game that everybody else was another character. That is really how I saw the world, and because of that, I always thought, so because I'm the main character, if you will, how I think of this is going to make the difference in that. And it sort of stuck with me. I know that's not the real case now, but
Nah.
the same sort of strategy works still for me to this day.
It's do you know what though? There's two elements to that.
Mm.
And I think you are right though. Your child self was right because you Peter Sage, have you heard of Peter Sage? Yeah. He says you are the star of your own movie. You are, right?
Mm.
Because who else is going to play the lead role for your own film?
Mm.
Like you are essentially the lead character of the Ben Knight movie, which is going to go from like however go on for however many years, and you've got to play that lead role.
Mm.
But you're not the fucking lead character for other people's films is the essential lesson that I think you need, like everybody needs to learn with that. And I'm not just saying that for you. I'm not being patronizing
No, no, no,
towards
no,
you.
absolutely.
Yeah. But that's the balance. That is the game. As you use I love the phrase like game in anything, gamify everything if we can. Because as soon as you think that other people were watching you, let's just say, it will stop you doing the things that you really love if you're worried about their opinion. And that's where the balance between, yeah, you are a star in your own movie, so go
Mm.
and do the stuff that you would want to do in your own movie. Imagine your life is this movie and you are the lead role, but don't think that everybody else has you as their lead character. You're just an extra,
Yeah,
basically.
that's probably maturing, right? Where you
Yeah.
hit maturity, where you make that realization that everybody else has got their own sort of thing. But something you said there that sparked this, I think it was Joe Rogan say this, and it was about like trying to be disciplined and stuff like that. But imagine that a camera crew is following you around all day, every day,
Yeah.
making a documentary about your success story, like your rise to success, and like how you'd want to act in that documentary, behave like that, and like it's powerful, right? Because you wouldn't be doing stupid stuff and not wasting time. You'd be doing the
How
best.
many how many like road rage instances would be stopped and how when I don't know, for example, I mentioned this as well the other day, like if I'm getting so much better at this, but it's on definitely on the top of my agenda for like my personal monologue. Although I'm better at it than I was, it's still something that needs to be like niched down on and improved. But for example, you spill a carton of milk in the kitchen and it goes everywhere and it's like, you fucking idiot kind of thing. Like how many of those situations would be stopped? How many arguments would be stopped and dealt with in a more controlled like manner than just getting livid with each other. Like, you know what I mean? The amount of stress I think that it would probably stop just having that camera crew on you, because you wouldn't want to show up, you wouldn't want to play up, would you? So yeah, it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. And something else that is very closely linked to this is the word responsibility. So I would say a big turning point in my life mentally was when I really started taking responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
And the big problem people get with this, and they have a hard time sort of internalizing it, is because people mistake the word responsibility for blame. So everything in your life, I'll say this, and I'm sure some people will disagree, but everything in your life is your responsibility. So all the good things, all the bad, they're yours. Doesn't mean they're your fault or you're to blame for them. Like some things were out of your control, but how you've handled them, how they still are there, how you're representing them, how you talk about them, how you feel about them, that's your responsibility. So the moment you can really take that on board, and when somebody does something in front of you in the car and like really really like works you up, or you spill something, things like that, being able to sort of take responsibility, and you can act out, you can like have your moment of effing and blinding at them, but if you can really take responsibility for that, and also the big things in your life as well, like if you don't have the finances you want, that's your responsibility. If you don't, hang around with people that are particularly good for you, that's your responsibility, like that kind of thing. The moment you can really make that shift, I promise you, like your life has to change, and it was a big thing for me.
Perfect, mate. I think that's a really good caveat into my final two questions of the episode. First question is these are the same two questions I ask every episode. Every guest gets asked the same two. What's next for Ben Knight and the Trade Tribe?
So we're currently at just over 220 members in the Trade Tribe. That's sort of the size of it at the moment. I want this to be a first UK-wide movement of giving people control back of their finances, because I feel like, I don't know about you, but I didn't learn this stuff at school. I think it's criminal that nobody does know how to do this and really grow wealth. So taking it UK and then global will be my next step after that. But yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Well, I wish you huge success and huge luck with your next steps, Ben. The final question of the podcast, I love this question because it brings so many varieties of answers, is what is the greatest bit of advice you've ever been given?
Greatest bit of advice. The one that I repeat to myself every day, I don't know if this is the best one I've ever had, but the one I repeat to myself every day is literally on my phone screen, is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Can you give us an example of that?
I can. So if you are doing tasks that you're not too fond of and you're half-assing them, you're not putting in your full, you're not giving your best, you're giving a lackluster performance, that's showing up somewhere else in your life as well. And having that sort of moment to yourself that, crap, I need to put more into this because I don't want this to show up anywhere else. That's been a huge thing for me. So yeah, how you do anything is how you do everything.
I absolutely love that. Ben, where can people come and find you if they want to come and find you on social media and your website, etc.?
Yeah, so, well, website nice and easy, thetradetribe.com. Or if it's on Instagram, at Ben Knight Investments, with an S on the end. Yeah, investments.
Perfect. Today has been another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy, and today's guest, Ben Knight from the Trade Tribe. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I feel like I have learned way more about investing than what I had before, and I hope that's reflected out onto the listeners as well. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please go over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and drop a 5-star review. It does go a long way to helping the show. And if you are watching on YouTube, hello, the like and subscribe button are below. Do not leave this page without clicking them. I will speak to you all here with a new episode every Friday. Take care.